Hello and welcome to the Adventures of Midlife.com video blog. In this video, I will review my business class flight aboard the world's longest flight from New York's JFK airport to Singapore, operated by Singapore Airlines. Singapore Airlines operates 3 daily flights from the east coast of the USA to Singapore. One from JFK to Singapore with a stopover in Frankfurt. Another one, a non-stop from EWR to Singapore, and then the JFK to Singapore non-stop flight. Exactly how long is the longest flight is a matter of who does the calculation. According to one calculation, it is just over 15,330 GCD kilometers. GCD stands for Great Circle Distance and considers the fact that the Earth is spherical and therefore the shortest route is not the so-called crow-flying distance. But I have also seen the distance calculated as being more than 17,000 kilometers. What is undisputable at the moment is that this is the longest flight, beating the second longest one, also operated by Singapore Airlines, but from EWR by a few kilometers. In theory, the flight time between JFK and Singapore is 18 hours and 50 minutes, while the second longest is about 5 minutes shorter. The Singapore Airlines uses the newer Airbus 350-900 ULR with 67 business class and 94 premium economy class seats in this flight. There are neither first class nor economy class seats in this SQ23 numbered flight. The flight was part of my 3-week Asia tour. The flight plan was Toronto to New York, to Singapore, to Siem Reap in Cambodia, to Sihanoukville in Cambodia, to Phnom Penh in Cambodia, to Langkawi in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Abu Dhabi, and then Toronto. So, the New York to Singapore flight will be a one-way ticket aboard the SQ23. A business class trip on this route costs around 8,000 Canadian dollars, which is just under 6,000 USD. But I wasn't paying for this. Instead, I was using 100,000 Alaska rewards points plus just over 87 Canadian dollars, which is about 6,350 USD in taxes. I had booked the ticket almost a year ahead, and this was indeed a good deal for me. Pre-flight procedures. Singapore Airlines offers what it calls Book the Cook feature, which allows the passenger to book their main meal online weeks earlier. Because of the logistical reasons of preparing a dish in a custom manner, the flights that are operated outside of Singapore have fewer options than those emanating from the airline's home base. I had ordered chicken rice. I had watched a video about Singapore's food specialities, and chicken rice is considered as one of them. I also signed up for KrisFlyer to get free internet. I live in Toronto, Canada, and the flight was from JFK in New York. In my opinion, the vacation should start with the flight itself, not when the flight ends in the destination. And my experience has taught me that it is better to be fully relaxed with sound sleep to enjoy a business class flight. So I took the flight to New York the previous evening and had a good night's sleep. Still, my flight was at 10:30 p.m. and I had to check out of the hotel mid-afternoon. I reached the airport around 5 p.m. Singapore Airlines flight via Frankfurt leaves a little earlier in the evening, and I had heard that they do not let the SQ23 passengers check in earlier because of the fear they will clog the lounges. So I just hung around. And then when the time came, I walked to the check-in counter. Check-in was a breezy affair. After the travel document and luggage check and the latter were tagged, I was ready to go. They also pointed out to the 3 lounges available. I wanted one with alcohol and shower facilities, but there was no lounge that fulfilled both conditions, so I went on a mini lounge hopping tour in JFK. I will do a separate vlog later. The boarding. There was no surprise that the business class queue was quite long, and we started boarding just past 10 p.m.
Hello.
Shortly after I settled into my seat, I was offered a choice of orange juice, apple juice or water. I asked whether there was no champagne because I always loved to take a selfie of myself holding that champagne float. But no, the flight attendant told me that champagne will be served only after we have taken off. I have heard that some airlines do not serve alcohol on ground because that entails extra tax. The plane left the boarding gate just after 10:30 p.m. and we were airborne 10 minutes later. And I got my champagne. The Piper High Chick Essential Extra Brewed is a smooth, bottle-aged champagne and was a good fit to start the journey. They also served us warm nuts and then came the appetizer. It was smoked trout and salad with zucchini, pickled red onions, roasted cauliflower and hazelnut with a dressing of lemon curd vinaigrette. I also chose to have Suntory Cheetah single grain to go with my meals. Though some say it is better to enjoy this whiskey over ice, I prefer my whiskey generally neat or just with a few drops of water. Then came the main meal. The chicken rice was tasty indeed, and when I mentioned it to the flight attendant N that this was one of the dishes I wanted to taste, she let me know that there are also some hawker centers in Singapore itself where I can taste even more. I also talked about my desire to taste the many dishes Singapore is famous for, and she promised to give me a list of such places. The flight SQ23 has an extensive menu ranging from fried cod and prawns to grilled chicken breast and Cantonese-style barbecued pork. The dishes were a mixture of Asian and Western. So later I had marinated shrimps with lemon aioli for appetizer and fish seafood soup for mains. Let's talk about the seat. Almost the entire time of this long flight will be spent on the seat, eating, drinking, reading, watching and or sleeping. So the composition of the seat is critical. And Singapore Airlines didn't spare any effort to make it as good as it can get. As expected, the seating is configured in a 1-2-1 setup and I had chosen a window seat. The seat is 28 inches wide and that's more than 2 feet and has enough leg rooms to stretch one's legs. It is a full-fledged seat, but the flight attendant had to come to set up the seat in a lie flat mode.
That's a big process.
Each compartment had also sufficient storage space besides the overhead bin. And then there were charging outlets as well. Let's check the amenity kits. When I got into my compartment, I saw slippers, socks, and sleeping masks. Later, we were given the famous Penhaligon's pouch consisting of hand lotion, facial mist, lip balm, etc. And there was also a Ziploc bag to put everything inside in case one is going through a third country transit. Well, let's talk about the entertainment. According to the airlines, its entertainment section features almost 2,000 items, ranging from movies to music. Within the movies section, there are new arrivals, the Hollywood movies section, as well as European, Asian, Bollywood, and also Indian regional movies. There are also TV shows and live TV. As I mentioned earlier, I had signed up to KrisFlyer member program to enjoy the free Wi-Fi. As soon as we were about 10,000 feet, we were able to connect. But it didn't last for too long. The connection dropped and I tried again and again, but it didn't work, so I gave up. However, the flight attendant mentioned that the internet does indeed get interrupted when the aircraft passes through specific areas due to weather and other conditions. But when I mentioned that my internet connection hadn't been working for a while, she showed me how to reset everything, and then it worked. A few hours later though, and I did spend 18 long hours on that plane, the internet connection or the Wi-Fi connection stopped working again. So I just gave up. I had a lot of reading and some video watching to do anyway. And then it was time for landing. Just before landing, the flight attendant N came with a list of dishes and hawker centers that I could and should visit. I realized that she and her colleagues had talked about my wishes and they put together this list for me. So, thank you N and your team. The flight landed actually ahead of time, 18 hours after we left JFK in New York. Final comments. As I had mentioned, this was a dream flight for me and I had well prepared. The seating arrangement, along with the special bed setting, ensured that the flight was comfortable. After 18 hours, I didn't feel much tired at all. But I should say that I missed the pre-flight champagne and thought that for a flight of this caliber, there should be a drink. But then the flight did not lose its excitement and service level just because there was no champagne before we left the gate. The food was great and the service was so professional and excellent. Well, that's it for now. In this video, I reviewed my business class flight aboard the world's longest flight operated by Singapore Airlines from New York's JFK airport to Singapore. I hope you enjoyed this video and hope to see you all again soon.